Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss productivity tactics that work for neurodivergent individuals.
Every episode, we interview guests with lived experience of neurodiversity who also have a solid productivity and habit game, and pass the learnings on to you, our wise and benevolent audience.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Joey.
I'm Joey, and I coach creatives to get moving on their most ambitious projects through the power of solid habits and strong focus. I'm also a perpetual student of psychology and perpetually on a quest to a one-armed chin-up.
And I'm Jeremy, a neurospicy software developer turned startup founder, building the Focus Bear app to help people with ADHD and autism thrive at work. My cool party trick is leaving parties early so I can get to sleep in time for my 2-hour-long morning routine. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy, I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. Welcome to episode number 124 of the Focus and Chill podcast. I'm joined today by Ani Moller. Annie is a leadership and life coach who works with neurodivergent professionals, particularly those with ADHD, autism, and who are experiencing burnout, who are navigating complex careers and high expectations. Drawing on a background as a senior executive and program manager, Annie brings a combination of business strategy and lived experience to their coaching practice. After experiencing multiple burnouts and then a stroke, Annie made it their mission to help others design a more sustainable and fulfilling way of working. Today they support senior leaders, creative professionals, and purpose-driven teams through one-to-one coaching, group programs, and workplace strategy rooted in trauma-informed neuro-affirming practice. Annie identifies as non-binary, they/she, is ADHD, and integrates evidence-based tools like positive intelligence with a deep understanding of energy management, nervous system regulation, creating psychologically safe teams and organizations, and the realities of leadership. Their work is all about helping clients lead authentically without compromising their well-being. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on, and it'll be really interesting to hear about all of your work, especially positive intelligence, because I only heard about it maybe about a month ago when we had another guest that talked about it. Yeah, great to hear how it informs your work. Let's begin with your own journey with being diagnosed and going through those experiences of burnout as well. When did you realize that you were neurodivergent?
Well, like many people, the pandemic and being locked inside and suddenly having nothing to do but self-reflect and doom scroll TikTok. Yeah, I got a friend of mine sent a list of traits of adult autistic women and I cried. I just sobbed. I couldn't even get through the list. It was the first time that I felt really understood, but it had led up to, there'd been a lot of stress that I had in my career. I'd had a number of burnouts. I had a lot of physical issues that I was really trying to get to the bottom of. And when I read all of these physical co-occurring conditions in this list, I was like, wow, I have been seeking help from so many specialists and I think this might be it. Later, came an ADHD diagnosis about 6 months later.
Are there any of the traits that you'd be comfortable sharing in terms of the ones that you identified with?
Oh, well, I mean, probably all of them, which is how I ended up getting a diagnosis. Look, the social challenges are pretty evident for me when it comes to autism. I think that ADHD hides a lot of my autism in many ways, a bit of a chatterbox. I can make friends pretty easily. I can't always hold on to those friendships. They often they're a bit volatile, which can be quite frustrating, and was pretty challenging being a leader inside of business. The ADHD, that was a surprise. it made sense going back and looking at all my school reports and seeing words like not meeting potential, could do better, disruptive in class. I was streamed into gifted classes, but just couldn't really do the whole schooling thing. It just didn't really work for me. I just really, really struggled with finishing anything. That's my biggest issue. But I didn't really align to any of the stereotypical traits of the hyperactive person, bouncing off the walls, running around, those sorts of things. I was just full of internalized hyperactivity, which I got a diagnosis of anxiety, but it was actually ADHD.
Yeah, it seems like a very common story and similar for me of the autism first, and I spotted that the ADHD felt like a surprise, but really opened up a lot of self-understanding and acceptance as well. Was it like that for you when you got the diagnosis?
Hugely. Yeah, it was a relief. I remember I had a speech pathology session, which was a very intensive 2-hour session that went through all of the specific, I guess, communication challenges I have. And they're pretty subtle. It was not until someone who was very, very experienced could point them out. I was like, oh, okay, that really makes sense. But because my parents are all neurodivergent, my family's neurodivergent, my friends were actually all neurodivergent, it all seemed kind of quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
It was only really when I was interacting with people who were very clearly not neurodivergent that I knew there was something going on, but I couldn't figure out what it was. So yeah, that appointment was pretty affirming. Getting the report though, not so good. Having a 20+ page report listing out all of your so-called deficits was pretty traumatic. And I remember reading the report and basically shutting it down. I was like, oh, I actually don't want to read that again. It had a pretty big impact on me negatively. And then I came back to it maybe about a year or maybe 18 months later and reread it. And it said, oh, and they also have complex PTSD. And that's actually probably been one of the biggest things to overcome. Having the right therapies to work on my complex PTSD has been honestly way more helpful than knowing that I'm autistic or ADHD in many ways.
Yeah, that sounds like it would have had a big impact on your life, all three of the traits.
100%. Don't know what my life would be like if I wasn't any of those, but it's one of those things where it's a pro and a con. I love my brain. I love how I experience the world, but it's not without challenge.
And has it gotten better since finding the different modalities for working with complex PTSD?
Thank God, yes. So much better. I feel like a completely different person. I feel much more like the person that I was as a child. Like, yeah, I had to me now, that were quite obvious challenges, but I don't have the triggers. I had a lot of internal triggers, especially when it came to interacting with people, having volatile friendships. I mean, my complex PTSD is definitely all around interpersonal trauma, but it's trauma with a lowercase t. It's subtle, not like one big thing. It's just a series of a lot of little things. So I used to just feel constantly panicked, like the inside of my body was like on fire. I'd have to, I don't know, have some sort of challenging conversation, and suddenly I'd feel the heat was rising up my body. Everything started to buzz. It was almost like there was this, I can't even describe it, just like a sensation of like anxiety, trigger, heat, rage. And those triggers were honestly really problematic for me. And yeah, working with a therapist who does EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprioritization therapy, that's been really, really helpful. Game changer.
Might have to look into that because I can really relate to what you just shared with that visceral experience, especially at work, I find. I think the justice sensitivity comes in for me if I feel like people aren't following the rules or aren't doing it the correct way. And it can be quite destructive then, rather than expressing something in terms of, hey, I think maybe you should do things a slightly different way. I can let it build up and then it can become a little bit volcanic. Was there anything like that for you in terms of the workplace?
That's exactly it. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, I probably experienced that more in terms of overstimulation. I worked in advertising technology companies for a long time, And, agency life is great for ADHD. It's great.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It's full of neurodivergent people, full of ADHD, full of creatives, but it's also open plan, fluorescent lights, lots of talking. And I was really masking heavily to try and be, I was an executive director. I was trying to be the proper professional adult person that I thought I was meant to be, even though I didn't feel like an adult at all. And so even just little things like wearing clothes that actually were really uncomfortable because I was trying to perform a role. And I would suddenly just get the overstimulation would build up throughout the day. And then there were times where it would explode and I would just say things that I didn't want to say. And I knew that if I was calmer, I wouldn't say, but I didn't know how to change it.
Yeah. And the EMDR has changed that a lot now for you.
EMDR has helped the triggers. So specifically when I'm having any sort of interpersonal conflict or having to talk to people that I don't know, that's a lot easier. And I'm a hypervisualizer, so I've got hyperphantasia, which is where I can easily step into a memory, but it's not just a memory. It's not even 3D. It's a 4D memory. It's like a movie. I can step in, I can smell things, I can see things. If I'm let's just say I've got a memory of being in the office, I can walk around in this memory. Like it's like fully, I don't know, it's full on, to be honest. And so what it means is that when I have memories that are quite triggering, I'm in them. And when I have an experience that is in any way related to those triggering memories, I'm back in that memory. And so EMDR takes that memory away from being 4D to make it just a little bit more opaque. Maybe some of the things that are in that memory and that visual are no longer there. And that's really, really helpful. But a lot of it's been accommodating myself as well.
As in taking away the fluorescent lights and the uncomfortable clothes.
Yeah, wearing clothes that are comfortable. And you can't see, but over here I've got like black sort of not blockout screens just to make everything dimmer. My mum likes to joke that I live in a cave, and I've always lived in a cave. I just need dark. But that has really, really helped because instead of trying to just address the triggers, I'm coming at it from a lower baseline. Like I used to joke that it felt like my electrons were vibrating. Just everything was just like buzzing. And when things aren't buzzing, it's just really easier. It's so much easier to deal with difficult situations.
100%. Could you speak about burnout a bit? Was it related to being in the agency and the hyperstimulation and all the demands that would come from that?
So there's been quite a few burnouts. I've had probably maybe 5 very severe burnouts in my life. One in high school, one when I just started my agency career. Up until then, I'd had careers that were not very challenging. I was just kind of bored. Then I finally found a job that was very interesting, and I took a lot on in terms of how I perceived my own value and what my role was to be valuable. And I had a project that went really, really wrong and very, very over budget. And I took that on quite personally and had a short burnout. My worst burnout was after working 16-hour days for a year, which unfortunately is not uncommon in my clients. And yeah, I just couldn't get the help that I needed. And so I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And then one day went into a meeting, something like clicked in my brain and I just had to get out straight away. Like I knew I was going to just be sobbing in that meeting. And I was an executive director, and that's a scary place to be because it doesn't make sense. Like I'm just in a meeting with people that I know. Like there's nothing scary about this. I just had to leave. Ended up having a massive skills regression, and it took 3 more years until I got my diagnosis of autism. But it was at that point that I was like, yeah, I really need to start looking into this because 6 months on the couch, my brain doesn't feel the same even now. But yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah, that sounds really not fun at all. And
No.
the skills regression part of it as well. I've had some experiences of that, and that can be very distressing of thinking, why can't I do this anymore? I used to be able to do it easily.
Yeah, and confusing. So I think this was probably at my 4th burnout at this point. I went from speaking at town halls to hundreds of people once a month to not being able to actually use my voice in a meeting of 5 people. And that was weird and just didn't make any sense. And that was pretty fresh after my diagnosis. It was kind of like diagnosis, skills regression, and burnout happened pretty quickly because it was just so much to process. But yeah, it was scary.
Yeah. And 3 years on, does it feel like you found a new pathway where you're not necessarily doing things the way that you were before, that able to do things that you care about?
Well, I had a stroke. So that was a strange little freak accident. That was back in May of 2023. I was doing some consulting, doing team coaching. I was almost finished my ADHD coaching course, which I decided to do for fun. No plans to be a coach. And yeah, that was pretty bad. So I couldn't really work anywhere near, I'm going to say quote unquote full time, because I do work 5 days a week, but it's a very different schedule and structure that I have today. But yeah, so I had kind of had no choice but to start a business that would accommodate my own needs, because I knew trying to go back into an office when, stroke recovery, you never know how long that's going to take. And yeah, my life looks pretty different today than it did, say 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, that would be huge. Did it come completely out of the blue, the stroke?
Got it from a vomiting bug.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
A very, very unexpected, not completely uncommon. There were quite a few women in my stroke survivor Facebook group who had the same type of stroke that I did, which is from a vomiting bug or a massage where we had a carotid artery dissection and it just cut off blood flow to the brain. One day I woke up and I couldn't see. So yeah, it's been quite challenging, but there's been a lot of weird positives that have come out of it. I started a business. I wouldn't have started a business if I hadn't had a stroke. Also, going back to positive intelligence, I did positive intelligence with a bunch of my ADHD cohort on the course that I was doing. We all did that together and I was in peak neuroplasticity mode. So it was just after the stroke, maybe about 6 to 9 months after the stroke, where everything's all kind of rewiring itself. And I could not have done it at a better time. I got a lot of benefits out of it. I feel very, very different now than what I did before.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So it was almost an opportunity to reprogram your brain at that point.
Yeah, strange little silver linings.
Now, in terms of the work that you do now, you've been able to craft a business that works around the way your brain and your body works. Can you tell the audience what you do these days?
So most of the time I do one-on-one coaching. So with the stroke, before the stroke, I was doing a lot of program management, which is, budgets, finances, complex documents, admin, lots of admin, as well as the team coaching aspect of things. And my executive functions were really, really affected with the stroke. So I literally couldn't do numbers. I couldn't even hold 3 numbers in my head at all. It's a bit better now. I couldn't see, like if I looked at a string of numbers or even just text, I couldn't see the stuff that was on the left. But what wasn't affected was my ability to speak. So I know that's not the same for all people that have strokes. A lot of people do end up with aphasia. But for some reason that was unaffected and it was completely in line with the certificate that I decided to do for fun for no reason. So I spend most of my time doing one-on-one coaching, which works quite well for my autism because one-on-one is always a lot easier than doing group stuff.
Yeah.
But I do like doing group stuff. So I'm also now starting to build up programs. I run positive intelligence, mental fitness for neurodivergent professionals. And I've just started another program called Overwhelmed to Organised, which is bringing a lot of the things together from the things that I've had to learn as part of my stroke recovery and going through multiple burnouts, as well as being a program manager. Like, how do you actually organize things, but doing that in a way that is kind to ourselves? We're not setting ourselves up for failure. We're focusing on one thing instead of 100 things, and just doing that in a way that just makes things a little bit easier for ourselves.
Mm. I could probably benefit from that. My day job, I'm a product manager, and I think it's kind of a level below program manager, but definitely a lot of different things, a lot of admin, and focusing on one thing at a time can feel very hard, but I can see how it would be beneficial.
Yeah, it's a demanding role. And you probably won't be surprised that I do work with quite a few program managers and product managers
Are they all in Australia or is it around the world?
around the world, but mostly in Australia. So there's this amazing fund in Australia. It's a federal fund that disabled people can access to get support to be their best selves at work. It's called the Employment Assistance Fund. And with that fund, if you have a formal diagnosis, you can access $1,682.77 in a 12-month period. That'll probably change in a few months. You can use that to access specialist mental health coaching. So most ADHD coaches will get their clients through the EAF fund because it means they can get a number of sessions for free. Some of my clients are overseas, mostly work with Aussies.
Amazing. I should access that.
I mean, look, everyone should access it. Unfortunately, it does require some executive functions. So I have clients who are in severe executive dysfunction, severe burnout, and they actually can't get through the process of applying because there's a lot of manual steps. You've got to collect paperwork. For my clients who are struggling with that, I would say, see if you can find a friend or a family member or a partner who can maybe do it for you, or you can sit together and do it. Accessing free money from the government to do something that's going to help you at work is great.
It's like that with a lot of supports from the government and DIS as well. It can be so hard to get in. A bit of implicit discrimination as part of that.
Yeah, I call it hostile architecture.
Mm. Yeah, maybe that's part of the design that they don't want to improve it because more people would access it.
Yeah, I suspect so.
Yeah. So when you're not working, what do you enjoy getting up to these days?
It's an interesting question, in the concept of talking about productivity and being a newish business owner. So I started coaching, I guess, part-time back in 2022 and decided to make it full-time about 18 months ago. So running a business is quite demanding. I'm trying to do my best to not work weekends, not work late nights. I don't work every day because I literally am unable to because I have severe fatigue from the stroke. So I do my best, but it does mean that I often don't do all the things that I wish that I could do. If I could do anything, I would be traveling. I'd be going around Europe. I'd be off to the art gallery. I'd love a museum, go see the new Superman movie. I love movies at IMAX. But I have only, I think, done one event at night in the past 2 years because my fatigue is awful. That was actually in the weekend that's just gone. So I feel like it's been 2 and a bit years now. I'm sort of slowly starting to turn a corner. Yeah, love the gym, love nature. Honestly, I have so many interests and hobbies that I can't do them all because I've got ADHD.
Yeah.
I do have to kind of choose which one I'm focusing on. And at the moment, I am focusing on doing things that bring me calm, going and having coffee with a friend, going for a walk in nature, a lot chiller than what I used to do. I used to have a very, very busy social life before my stroke.
Is gardening part of one of those hobbies as well? Admiring the indoor plants behind you.
Indoor gardening, yes. I only have a small little balcony, so no outdoor gardening. But when my mum lives in New Zealand, when she gets me to go and stay with her, yeah, I'll be doing gardening, her gardening. I do love plants, yeah.
Yeah, it looks really peaceful having that. I've got some downstairs and you're making me think I should have some in my room as well.
Yeah, well, this is many, many years of killing pot plants, throwing those ones away, and just keeping the ones that stay alive. I don't think I have a particularly green thumb.
Natural selection.
Yeah, that's right.
Hard plants. Right. Now, in terms of productivity, you've spoken about how it's not possible to do everything because due to fatigue and just the demands. So it must mean that you're very selective about what you take on as well. Are there any productivity tactics that you found most effective for you?
Well, brutal prioritization, I would say. I think that's really a skill that I have had to learn over the past probably 8 years. Once I got appointed to executive leadership, I panicked because, oh my goodness, there is just so much work that could be done. Going into my CEO's office and having a bit of a panic. Oh, I can't do it. There's so many emails. How do you do this? And he gave me some really good advice, which is you just have to get used to never getting to the bottom of your task list and your inbox. And I was like, oh, because I had this mindset of I need to do everything. I've got to get inbox 0. Everything has to get done. Task list has to be fully completed at the end of the day. And I guess getting permission to not have to worry about that has been really helpful. But also it's a skill I've had to practice. But I guess I'm really clear around my values, what's important to me, and how I think I can be of value and service to others. So when I'm meeting new clients where it's pretty obvious to me that I'm not the best person, I will refer people on to either, other supports like EMDR, like we spoke about before, possibly another ADHD coach who has more of a special interest or a hyper focus in a particular area. That just really helps, just being super clear on what am I trying to get out of life? What's important to me? So my top 2 values are emotional connection and fun and laughter. And that guides who I spend time with, who my friends are, what social activities I do, and also which clients I work with. Because if the vibe's doesn't work well for them or for me, it's difficult for both of us. It's a trusted partnership.
There's a lot of ways that work can be unnecessarily stressful. And for me, a lot of it is about who I work with. That makes such a difference. I like that idea of being guided by your values.
Yeah. And what's important. I do set business goals. Well, goals. Not even targets, intentions, desires. I try to just bring them down a little bit in terms of stress and the commitment level. I'm not trying to get from point A to point B like a straight line. I'm just kind of wafting through, figuring out, I just feel like I'm always in a boat on the water. Just, you never know, the current can take you in different directions and then you might just have to paddle harder. I'm not so strict with, okay, here to here. I just try to make it a little bit more opaque. Which might be interesting as an autistic person, but it does really help me to have those goals be a little bit softer. So I do maybe not quarterly planning, but at least a couple of times a year when the desire strikes me or when I've booked it in my calendar, I'll sit down and go, okay, what do I actually want to do? What are my goals? And then just don't do things that align with that. That don't align with that, rather.
That part is the hard part. I think going back to the ruthless prioritization. And for me, I really relate to what you were saying around having a lot of hobbies, and that also translates into my work life, that I end up having lots and lots of projects and I want to keep them all going, but that doesn't necessarily work. Do you have any tactics around how you do the ruthless prioritization? You stick to it?
Well, what are you saying no to?
That's the hard question.
I know. And I think a lot of my clients, they really struggle with that question because they think they have to say yes to everything. And saying no, again, is it's a brain muscle that we have to practice, like going to the gym. Because if you are gifted, late diagnosed, neurodivergent, actually disabled, didn't realize these things and are coming to terms with those things, we do have a tendency to say yes to everything. And if we don't know what things we are saying no to, then we will just say yes to everything. So I guess something that I might do is just sit down and write a list, just jot down a couple of things that I'm going to say no to. One thing I'm going to say no to today. One thing I'm going to say no to this week. It can be writing it down or even just thinking about it, but ADHDers are a lot better if we write things down.
Yeah, 100%. And that almost goes along with the values then, because I guess the values are the things you say yes to, and then being clear about what you'd say no to as well. It would be very helpful for me to think about that because I've got an event that I've committed to go to tomorrow, a gala dinner, and I'm like you, I don't cope well with evening events. And I have been thinking the whole time of why did I say yes to this? Why? And I think I just need to make a note of things that I do that then end up not being fruitful and end up exhausting me so I can remember next time. Because I think I had the belief that this would be fun, I'd enjoy it, but it's probably not going to work out that way. And I think that's where the ADHD idea, the amnesia creeps in for me, that I forget what things were like, and having it written down is very helpful.
Yeah. I do a lot of energy accounting with my clients. So because I do have severe fatigue, I have to be really clear on what things bring me energy and what things take away my energy. And just, again, having that thought about and written down is really easy it makes it a lot easier to say no to things. I could do, at this point, I might be able to do one nighttime event a week, maybe. Hopefully it will happen again next week. I have to prepare before and after. I have to prepare my energy leading up. I have to have time to recover after that event. And also not all nighttime events are going to be things that I can personally do. Like if it's going to a small restaurant with earplugs in with one person, I think I could do that. If it's doing a group dinner, no, I don't think I could do that. Or I could do that maybe, but I know I'd be paying for it. And my business would be affected. My clients would be affected because they would not get the best version of me.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. That concept is really useful. And I guess it goes back to the program management days of managing budgets, and now it's managing energy levels.
Yep. Energy budgets.
Yep. When you were speaking before about accepting that it's not going to be possible to get to inbox zero and getting to the end of the task list, do you have any specific things that work for you with emails?
So I suppose I do a few things. I can't remember what they're called. You know, the different tabs in Gmail, focused inboxes. That's what it's called. I find that really helpful. So I just try to avoid the updates one, which is all, updates on meetings and notifications and what have you, and just focus on what's in the main inbox. I try not to read an email more than once, but I'm not very good at that because autistic ADHD, I forget what's in it. But I'll try to read it once, and if it's something that I can't do straight away, I will mark it as important and then mark it unread, and probably put it on my task list. So I try not to use my inbox as my task list because there's just no way to do everything that's in the inbox. I have recently hired a virtual assistant, which has been quite helpful. I try not to start my days looking at my inbox. Now, I know some people really do need to do that, and that's the reality of the job. I think a lot of my clients, probably, I'm going to say 85% of my clients, way better in the morning. Some of my clients, actually, they're better in the afternoon and evening. But when you come into work and the first thing you do is spend an hour in your inbox, and then you're like, okay, what next? But if you've got just one thing on your list and you spend the first hour of your day doing that one thing that's on your list, rather than checking the endless list of emails that is always going to get bigger, it can just help you to feel a little bit more successful. Because when we check something off and then we can pat ourselves on the back and be like, yeah, I did that. That's great. It helps to give us a little bit more dopamine to do other things. Because I think the sense that we get around reading emails and checking emails and that dopamine, I don't know about you, but for me, the dopamine response that I get from working in my inbox is not as satisfying as actually doing something that I know I need to do. So I just try to literally pat myself on the back and be like, yeah, Annie, you did that. That's something I learned from Positive Intelligence, which feels weird and cringy, but actually does help.
I went to a Tiny Habits workshop last week, and they had the same idea of if you go and brush your teeth, then you should congratulate yourself if it's something that you're not used to doing. And it did feel a bit cringy, but I can also see why it's really important in terms of rewiring the brain and getting used to doing hard things as well. because the checking emails for me, it does provide, it's a bit like junk food, that it's an immediate hit of dopamine, but as you said, it doesn't really last and it doesn't feel as satisfying. And I'd like to be able to spend more of my time doing the harder things that are ultimately more fruitful.
Yeah. And I think it also depends what part of your executive functions you struggle with. So if you struggle with initiation, then it might be quite helpful to just do a couple of emails and then get that ball rolling because you're already in it. If your issue, like me, is finishing things, then doing that, getting straight into the inbox is actually making that worse for me, is just focusing on one thing. So I think a lot of the productivity advice is just, here's a thing that works for ADHD, but actually, there's like 12 different executive functions. We need to focus on the things that are specific to that. Otherwise, we try strategies that don't work for us and then feel a sense of failure rather than a feeling of success.
That's a great way of putting it. I have a question here around what productivity tactics don't work for you. And I guess that's almost a meta answer, that you need to think about why might they not work. And it could be to do with the different levels of executive function.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably what is the case for most of my clients, is the productivity tips that don't work for them are actually just not designed for their specific flavor of executive dysfunction. Because not all ADHDers are people who can't start things or people who are messy and disorganized. I'm also autistic. I'm not messy. I am organized. I can't finish anything. So I need very different tips. But I would say unhelpful productivity advice. It's interesting. I was thinking about this morning, and one of my clients yesterday, they said, oh, yeah, I'm going to eat the frog. You've probably heard of eat the frog, which is doing the hardest task first. Being autistic and a literal thinker, I took that very literal, doing the hardest task. I have a brain that thrives under complexity. I always got given any project that was basically a hospital pass. This is just stuff from the start. I got those projects and I actually really liked it because it was a real big challenge. But the tasks that I struggle with are not the quote unquote hard tasks. They're the tasks that make me tired. So the things that make me tired might be responding to a personal email about some sort of life admin. Like, that's an exhausting task for me, but it's not hard. So yeah, that didn't work for me. Being literal.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really struggled with very simple things like I have to sign some agreements and it takes like 30 seconds to do it. But I find there's something about it that just taxes me massively. I hate having to do 15 of them in a row because I can't really batch them. They come in at different times. And it's an easy task, but it feels a lot harder than spending half an hour writing code, which for most people would be a hard thing.
Exactly.
Maybe it's about redefining the word hard there. And
For sure. For sure. And I think another one is just a lot of the generic productivity advice around getting up early and making extra time in the morning. I have fatigue. I'm exhausted all of the time. I actually have to sleep in. So it feels counterproductive. But by sleeping in and getting more sleep, my brain is actually more functional for the rest of the day.
Yeah, totally. Well, in line with that, to preserve our energy levels, we'll take a quick break. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy. I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think.
Yep.
Okay, we're back. I've had a glass of water. Energy levels are restored. We were just talking about sleep and the morning. And You were saying that having a strict, rigid time that you would wake up is not beneficial for you. How do you normally start your days? You'll get sufficient sleep, and then what do things look like from there?
Mm. Well, I do actually have to have a strict, rigid schedule, but it's just a very different strict, rigid schedule.
Hmm.
So before all of my diagnoses and my stroke, I would get up at 5:30 in the morning every day. I'd be at the gym lifting weights, easily 2 hours. Clearly, I was trying to deal with my unmedicated ADHD. But what was really great when I was working at one of the agencies that I worked at is we had a 9:30 a.m. start. That was wonderful. I'd always started at 8:30, and having that extra time in the morning, even though I just lived a very short walk away, was quite life-changing, and also gave me permission in my later life I can start whenever I want. I can start later. So I do have to be quite strict with my wake-up routine. When you're trying to maximize the energy you've got, when you've got severe fatigue, they do recommend that you try and get up at the same time and try and go to bed at the same time every night, instead of what I used to do, which would be go to bed anywhere from 8:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day.
Oh.
And now I am in bed every night, 11 max. But yeah, no, I wake up at 7. I'm quite gentle about it. I don't care if I snooze a few times. Sometimes I'm tired. But because I've got fibromyalgia, I do have to get up and do some sort of movement because it makes my pain better. So it could be just going for a gentle walk. It could be going to the gym, could be lifting weights, although not very heavy now because of my stroke. And I just decide what I'm going to do based on how I'm feeling in the morning, what my body is telling me, and also where I am in my menstrual cycle, because I really did not pay enough attention to how that impacted me. So I do completely different exercise at the gym when I'm leading up to my cycle. And yeah, I just try to keep relaxed, and I need quite a bit of time. So I wake up at 7, I take my first clients at 10. That's 3 hours. And I think a lot of people would say 3 hours is a long time to get ready in the morning, but I've never been able to get up, wake up, quickly shower, and then eat and go out the door. Whenever I did that, I felt stressed. I had so much anxiety. And so just taking things slow helps to keep that baseline lower. The electrons are vibrating at a lower place, which is nice. Always eat a nice breakfast, have some good protein, because that really helps my ADHD. So yeah, I think my morning routine is really precious to me. And if I get a chance to go look at some birds in a park, that's great. Go maybe walk down by the sea. Just do something nice that warms me up for the day.
Love that. And I think 3 hours is perfect. I try to do the same thing as well. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you go to bed around 11. Is there anything that you do as a ritual to help you get to sleep?
Oh God, sleep. Okay, so I'm 45. So my sleep is severely impacted by perimenopause at this stage of my life. I have been doing a lot of experimenting with how to improve my sleep, because autistic people just don't get enough deep restorative sleep compared to neurotypical people. I have to prepare for the fact that I'm probably going to be waking up multiple times in the night, which is just super frustrating. I have recently discovered that my phone is contributing significantly to that. I was always doing, had the iPhone wind down thing. It would start my wind down, I think, at like 9:30, and I'd be in bed at 11. But it turns out that I actually need my wind down at 8. I think that 3 hours in the morning, I think I actually need 3 hours at night. I have to reduce my screen time significantly. I've had to use an app to just block everything. And yeah, no social media, no YouTube, no work emails, block it all. And I've been experimenting with, I've got those Philip Hue lights.
Oh, yeah.
And so I have them on schedules, and they rotate through different color schemes, because I have quite bad, perception of time. Like I could literally just, 3 hours have gone. And I find that turning my lights all to red at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., whatever a time works, really helps to signal to my mind and my body that actually it's time to get ready for bed. And because I think it's easy, when you're watching TV, you're in the middle of an exciting series, it's easy to just, next, next, next. But I need that kind of sensory cue, that external sensory cue, which has been quite helpful. At the end of my workday at 6 p.m., my lights change to a different color. And then at 8 p.m., they change to red. And that really helps because otherwise I would just stay up all night researching who knows what, something.
That's very cool. I've got the Philips Hue lights as well, and I haven't figured out how to make them automatically do that. Did you do that just with the Hue app, or are you using Home Assistant for that?
Just using the Hue app, but I do have the bridge. I'm not sure if you can do it without the bridge. You might be able to.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
So I do find that helpful. It's nice to have signals that are quite obvious as well, because if it's something a bit too subtle, then I won't notice.
Yeah, me too. I try to do a little bit of journaling every now and then. I've been doing a 5-year, it's like a 1 question a day journal. I'm up to 3.5 years now. The last year has been really hard because I will literally just forget for 3 weeks, and then I've got 3 weeks worth of questions, but I'm just trying to forgive myself and be like, yep, I don't need to be all or nothing. I can just go back and answer these other questions later. But just the process of just getting in bed and not being on the phone, just writing or reading is helpful. Difficult, but helpful.
100%. If people would like to connect with you, where's the best place for them to find you online?
Yeah, probably the best place would be my website, which is animoller.com, ANIMOLLER.com. I am probably mostly on TikTok. I do have an Instagram, but I don't use that very often because brutal prioritization. On TikTok, my handle is professional Audi, as in ADHD, AUDIE. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Ani Moller.
Wonderful. Do you have any final words or asks for the audience?
I would say, and this is something that comes up with a lot of my clients, especially who are in burnout, is to treat rest as productive. It's not something that gets in the way of work. It is productive. And uncoupling the idea of laziness with rest. Rest is something that helps us to be better rather than getting in the way of doing all of the tasks. And I think a lot of my clients, they come to me, they want strategies to improve their leadership skills, to do more work and get through their inbox and all the things that they want to achieve at work and in their personal life. And a lot of the time, I'll ask questions around sleep and rest and breaks. And often that's the first place that we start because most of my clients are not sleeping enough. They're not resting enough. They're not taking breaks during the day. So I would just encourage you to all take a break.
Love it. Thanks so much, Ani. We'll round the show with that. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.